Welcome to Philadelphia. It is a beautiful day to go find some Bens. Benjamin, Benny boy, where you at? Let's go find him. It's no secret that Philadelphia is obsessed with Benjamin Franklin. Ben, I call him Ben. Benjamin Franklin is hiding everywhere you can expect and don't expect across the city, often in plain sight. He's always there, lurking in some corner, high up above, on the ground. You'll find a bunch of him everywhere. But either way, it makes perfect sense because he is the U.S. founding father with the greatest ties to the city of brotherly love. Originally from Boston, Ben showed up in Philly at 1723 to work as an apprentice in a publishing house. And long history lecture short, he did 1,000 different things after that. He went to France, he did some politics, did some education, did some science, did a whole bunch of stuff that left his name all across the world, but left his name plastered everywhere you can find here in Philadelphia. And that began kind of like my Ben hunt, my Ben collection. Every time I saw Benjamin Franklin as a statue, as a name, as a portrait, I tried to take photos of it or video of it. But there are just so many Bens that I needed to narrow down my criteria of what a proper Philly Ben was. And I started this process with the campus Bens because they are epitomes of Benjamins. And my proper Philly Bens started out as Ben statues. I walked a bunch on the University of Pennsylvania campus, and there are some really good Bens there. Is Big Ben. I have nicknames for all the statues. It helps me remember which ones they are. But Big Ben was made by John Boyle in 1889, and he sits kind of like a centerpiece of the campus. It was originally a gift to the city and then later donated to the university because within that thousands of things that Benny Boy did, he was also one of the founders of the College of Philadelphia in 1749, which then later evolved to become the current university. That's why across campus, you'll see Benjamin Franklin quotes on the ground or on the buildings. You'll see his face in banners and promotional pamphlets. You'll also see part of his family crest in the University of Pennsylvania's crest. The 3 dots on the crest come from William Penn, and the dolphin, not a fish, apparently it's a dolphin, comes from Benjamin Franklin. But another one who I call Hot Young Ben is also on campus. I have my doubts that Benjamin Franklin looked like this as a teenager, but go off statue. But this statue is aptly symbolic for a college campus, right? It's all young, hopeful for the future, optimistic. I get it. Now, the final campus Ben, if campus lore is to be believed, please don't touch it. Kind of the opposite. This is Take a Seat Ben. But all of these campus Bens made me think okay, this has to be a thing. So I looked it up online and I did find a Benjamin Franklin list by the Public Art Association, which was kind of perfect because I thought I wanted to find life-size statues of Ben. The Public Art Association here in Philadelphia does maintain a lot of the actual Benjamin Franklin statues. So on their list, there was about 12 or 13 proper Philly Bens. But the more I looked into it and the more I discovered, the more complicated this list became. And I found out after seeing this list, I've seen about 10 of them already, and some extras. Initially, when I found this out, I was like, oh, cool, because they were all happy accidents. I didn't really mean to go find any of them. And some of them aren't hard to find, right? By City Hall, there is Ernest Worker Ben, who is working at that print press. And then there's also Masonic Temple Ben hanging out with George. Made of Keys Ben is a little further down in Old City. I initially called him Fireman Ben because he's placed right in front of the fire station there. Because another thing Ben did was, start the voluntary fire. This man did too much. He started the voluntary fire department. But upon further and closer inspection, I found out that he is literally made of keys. So now he's made of Key Ben. And then hidden away in Cox Park, closer to the Schuylkill, past Logan Square, is Haskite Ben. So on this Public Art Association list, there's a few I was kind of skeptical of. There's monuments that are significant to Franklin's life here in Philadelphia, like the Ghost House, which is an outline of his house, which was demolished in 1812. And I get it, it's a part of his life, it's significant. But I feel like it's not a proper Philly Ben, right? It's not him, it's his house. Also included in this list are things that have been dedicated to him, like the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. Built in 1926, it connects New Jersey and Philadelphia across the Delaware River. Yes, that Delaware River. And at the base of it on the Philadelphia side is the Bolt of Lightning Memorial, which, okay, hear me out. Both of them are not proper Philly Bens, but I think they do count because they're like, the commitment to the theme here is legit. So I'm gonna count them on my list, I think. Similarly, I'm also gonna count the Broken Button. Now, the Broken Button is actually on the university's campus I mentioned earlier. I didn't initially realize it was related to Ben because it's just a large button, but apparently it was made by Claes Oldenburg. And if you know Philly art, this name probably sticks out a bit because he is the man who made my favorite statue of Philadelphia, the clothespin. The clothespin that sits across City Hall and the Love statue. And apparently this idea for the button came from the fact that Big Ben, a few hundred yards away or so, is apparently missing a button. So they decided to make a statue of it. There's one that I knew about too on Benjamin Franklin Parkway. Ben Parkway. There is the Franklin Institute, which has a life-size, it's more like a Lincoln Memorial style Benjamin Franklin, and I knew about it. I knew it was there. I've passed the building, but I didn't want to pay for it. It cost me money, Ben. So I didn't want to include it on my edition of the list just because, like, I don't want to pay to see it. Okay, let's have a recap on the Bens. Public Art Association list. I'm definitely creating my own Emily edition as I make this. So the Emily edition is different than this Public Art Association because I do have some extras. Right inside the art museum, there is a bust of Benjamin Franklin that is creepily lifelike. And I know I just talked about not wanting to spend money for this, but I didn't go to the art museum just to see Ben, which feels different. So happy accident, Ben's on there. Some of my additions to this list, on the Emily editions of these lists, is actually near the missing two from the Public Art Association list. And they're all in Old City, which isn't really surprising because that's where a lot of the original 1770s, 1790s, all of the old colonial Georgian architecture and statues and monuments are all there. On 6th Street and Chestnut, there is something called the Signer Walk, which features the faces and the signatures of everyone who signed the Declaration of Independence. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, let me find Ben. But I couldn't find it on my first walkthrough because Ben's face is literally missing. This is like the ultimate sneaky Ben. It's on the ground, there's no face, you have to read. So it's on my list because it's a challenge. Now, the Public Ledger building is on one side of Independence Hall. So if you cross over to the other side, you come up to the American Philosophical Society and Library Hall. Now, on the outside of Library Hall, there is Toga Ben II. And we're going to talk about Toga Ben a bunch. I'm not quite ready yet. I'm still mad about Toga Ben. But as a quick recap, this brings my edition of the Proper Philly Ben list up to 13. I'm actually in the process of moving away from Philly. It's a slow process, but as soon as I found out I was moving, I needed to collect all these Bens. It was just, I can't leave this undone. I need to find all these Benjamin Franklins. And I know for a fact there's far more than what I'm aware of, but I need to at least see these missing two Bens. So the Ben hunt began again. Okay, this shouldn't be hard. We're going on a Ben hunt. Like the going on a bear hunt, going on a Ben hunt, gonna catch some Benjamins. So we're going on a Ben hunt. Everything indicates this shouldn't be really hard to do. I should be able to stroll up and see them. So wish me luck, I'm gonna find some Benjamins. So I thought that this building was still in government use or perhaps was used by a business where the entrance might be accessible before passing through more security. So I thought, okay, if the Ben is inside the building and the entrance, I can probably just go see it without having to make it a thing. But I was mistaken. The building now, like many other historical buildings of Philadelphia, has been made into apartments. So I decided not to go inside, but here's Has a Stick Ben. Regal Ben. I'm undecided on the name. I like Has a Stick, but he is kind of a more regal Ben. Final Ben is Toga Ben the First. We saw Toga Ben the Second. This is Toga Ben the First. So Toga Ben the First has been the real complication here. Toga Ben the Second is actually a copy of Toga Ben the First. And Toga Ben the First was actually heavily damaged by being outside on the building for so long. So when the library actually moved locations, Toga Ben the First was installed and displayed in a window by the front entrance. Supposedly. Apparently. However, the complication. Fun facts about this one. It is the oldest Ben, but it's really cool because it's the first public monument of Philadelphia. Like, how can you not want to go see this thing? It was made by Francisco Lanzarini in 1790s. I know I butchered that, but he made it in the 1790s. This marble toga-wearing Ben was a gift to the library company. Because once again, another thing Benjamin did was he founded the company in 1731 and is considered the first librarian. Now, the library company is located on Locust Street next to the Historical Society, and it's not quite an everyday use library. It's primarily used by researchers since it's home to a lot of historical texts, primary sources, and funny enough, has a lot of Bens. Toga Ben is not the only Ben you can find there, but Toga Ben is the one that I care about the most. So the library company actually does exhibits that it's free to the public, while you do need to make an appointment to actually use the resources at the library. But I thought, cool, I'll just stroll in and see Ben. He's on the outside, I should be able to see him no problem. At first, I thought there was so much construction on the street that it was partially blocked, or I just wasn't seeing it. Like the angle was weird from the other side of the street, I couldn't find it. So I went inside to see maybe they moved it indoors more or something like that. And it actually was really cool. There was many things in there that I just were not expecting to see, like a desk of William Penn's, or, seeing a lock of George Washington's hair was not on my bingo sheet for 2022, but I'm not mad about that. I'm mad that I still couldn't find Ben. And what I think happened here is that another exhibit going on at the library is called Hearing Voices, which displays firsthand accounts telling the history of mental health in America and in Philly, which again is super cool. Please check it out. But my problem with this is the poster for this exhibit is displayed outside of the library on the window that normally displays Ben. So if I move soon and this poster doesn't come down, I don't think I'll be able to actually see Toga Ben. I've been right next to it. I've been so close, but I think it's not meant to be. The poster, yeah, so my list is incomplete. Which is a very, very unsatisfying end to this list. He's like the legendary Ben. You can't catch him until the very end. So I have hope, but it's not looking great. But okay, let's talk about proper Philly Bens. I think this now brings the Emily edition of the list up to 15. And please don't tell me if there's any more publicly accessible Bens. Like, I don't think I can handle anymore. I found some more Bens. Kind of immediately after I was done, I found some more Bens. And we're gonna add some more to this list. First off is the Ben at the National Constitution Center. So the center is within the Independence National Historic Park. So he sits along with 41 other founding fathers in Signer Hall, where you walk around and see life-size statues of them, and you can take a photo with Ben like this kid is. If you wanted to pay, which is a no for me, so bye, Ben. Another one is within the visitor center for the historic park. I don't think he normally is wearing a mural art shirt, but it is kind of a strange combination of my worlds happening that I do support. This is like my world this past summer in a photo. And then walking home a different route one night, I found another Ben. This one is on Vine Street Expressway at its intersection with 17th Street. This Ben's a really cool art piece. I don't have a great photo of it because it was late at night as I was walking home, but here's another example of a sneaky Ben popping up when you least expect it. So when I finished this now and I looked at my list, I realized I would be remiss if I did not include the only Ben that truly mattered, the real Ben. At Christ Church Burial Ground in Old City lies the grave of the real Benjamin Franklin. And they actually changed the wall to a fence so that the grave is visible and for people to throw pennies on. A penny saved is a penny earned, which is something he actually did not say. But people can't be making it rain in Benjamin's at his grave. So once again, please don't tell me if you know any more publicly accessible free Bens. I'm done. This is it. I'm done. I'm just gonna go stalk outside the library now. Bye. No Togo Ben today. Nah.